Morning, guys. Welcome to Cruising with Wheels. Today I'm going to talk to you about booking your cruise and traveling with a wheelchair. Now, I've mentioned before a few times in some other videos, and I'm going to continue to mention it in this one. When Kevin books the cruise and we're looking for the right deck and the right handicap room, we want to make sure that when we book it, we book a full turnaround handicap room. And there's a difference between that and what some cruise lines have called a modified handicap room. Full turnaround is a larger square footage room. As it says, I am able to roll my wheelchair around, be able to get in and out of the cabin by myself, in and out of the bathroom by myself. It's large enough to accommodate me to roll around and have fun. Some cruise lines have modified handicap rooms, which means it's a regular, small, everyday cabin. But the bathroom is set up to accommodate someone with disabilities and accommodate a wheelchair in terms of the sink being lower, where you're able to roll under it, large shower, attached bench, all the grab bars, anything you need if you are disabled. So please make sure that when you book your cruise, you do not use the term handicap. Please make sure it is a full turnaround if that is what you need because you're in a scooter or a wheelchair. Now, after we book the cruise, and Kevin tells them, my husband's in a wheelchair, yada, 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 usually we will get emailed to us a special needs form from the cruise line. And it's usually about 4 to 5 pages long, and basically they want us to fill it out and tell them exactly what my needs are. And Kevin will post a sample of one of the special needs form. I believe it's from Norwegian Cruise Lines. And we're going to post it on this video so you'll be able to see it and know what kind of questions they will be asking you. And once you fill it out, we email it or fax it back to them and they have it on file. So they know exactly what they're dealing with when I get on board. Now, I travel with my own wheelchair. Some people don't have their own, and they're going to need a wheelchair when they get on the cruise ship. Now, you either A, have your own wheelchair, number one, like I do. So right from the get-go, I'm leaving the house, I've got my own. Number two, you can rent one, maybe from a local store in your town or city. We have one here in our city in upstate New York. A shout out to Fonte's Surgical Supply. They have a variety of wheelchairs, scooters, oxygen tanks, any accessory you might need to rent and take with you, so you can get it locally as a rental. Number three, you can call one of several online companies and rent a scooter or a wheelchair, and they will have it delivered to your cabin right on the ship. Now, we did that one year, if you're used to having your own wheelchair and all of a sudden you're in another wheelchair, it can be a little disconcerting. But we did a company called Care Vacations. I believe we traveled on Norwegian, and I believe that was the only company that they dealt with. So obviously, we rented from them. We got on the ship, we got to our cabin, the wheelchair was right there in our room waiting for me. I had to use a wheelchair at the airport to get onto the plane, and then a wheelchair that the Port of New York had to get me onto the ship. And then I had to keep jumping from one wheelchair to the next. And it was a little tiring. I have my own wheelchair now, so that isn't an issue. So There are three basic companies that I found on the web that you can rent a wheelchair, a scooter, or any supplies you may need. The first one is called Scootaround. Now, Scootaround apparently has bought Care Vacations. So if you go online and you see a link to Care Vacations and click it, it's going to come up Scootaround. They are now the parent company. The second organization that you can rent a wheelchair or scooter is called Nice Vacations for You. And the third one is called Special Needs at Sea. And Kevin is going to put the 1-800 numbers and the links to their websites. You can go online, you can order all of this and book it right on their website. It's really awesome. Or you can call the 1-800 number and deal with someone on the phone, however you want to do it. So those seem to be the three main companies to deal with. Now, when I get to the airport and we get to our gate, and usually we have priority boarding, and I'm the first one on, Kevin has to take the legs off of my wheelchair. And we put them in a special little tote bag that we've purchased because we have to keep it with us on the plane. They will only fold up my wheelchair and they will store it in the luggage cargo of the plane, but without my legs. However, when we get to our destination, wherever it is, New York, Miami, wherever, I'm the last one off the plane. Because obviously they're unloading the luggage, they have to get my wheelchair out of cargo, and it takes some time to get it up to the jetway. And everyone else, all the other passengers on the plane, are exiting, and I'm kind of sitting there, and Kevin is like, okay, I think it's time for me to get off, and I want to make sure that, you know, they get your wheelchair and they don't forget that you're here. There was one instance where I was there all by myself, sitting on the plane. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm all alone, and the flight crew is leaving and they're changing, and the cleaning crew is on and they're cleaning up the airplane, and I'm sitting there going, boy, I hope they didn't forget I'm on here. And I'm assuming, you know, Kevin's out on the jetway with my wheelchair and, you know, waiting for, you know, someone to get me. And so he was out there, and they said to him, excuse me, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? What do you want? And he said, well, I need to get my husband. He's on the plane. And they said, no, there's no one on the plane. All the passengers are off the plane. And he said, oh no, there's not. Wheelchair, empty, husband, on plane. And they kept saying, no, there's no one on the plane. And he's like, listen, you've got my husband. He's on the plane. Do not make me storm past you. And then finally one of the original stewardesses, the flight attendants, came and said, oh, hey, isn't he off yet? And Kevin was like, no, the pilot is telling me that he's not there, that everyone is off the plane. So Kevin had to make a big stink. I was like, I hope this plane doesn't start loading up with brand new passengers and I'm going to end up flying to another destination that I don't belong. So, you know, be prepared. It gets a little dicey sometimes. But that's pretty much what happens from home to the airport, on the plane, off the plane, and on the cruise ship. Our first cruise we took, the cruise line was able to provide a wheelchair for me. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. And I want to tell you, do not rely on the cruise ship to provide you for a wheelchair. We got one because it was an emergency. But remember, there's only a small amount of wheelchairs at the port for that ship. You know, and whether we were on the Carnival Victory, Carnival Conquest, NCL Gem, whatever, there's only a certain amount of wheelchairs that are provided for that particular cruise ship. So don't think that you can say, oh, I'm gonna rent a wheelchair, you know, from the cruise ship, no problem. There's a problem, okay? Because remember, there's only a certain number at the port, and they use them to transport people back and forth from the port to the ship, and back again. And on the ship, there's only a certain amount of wheelchairs there for people that maybe have an accident, there's an emergency, or maybe a wheelchair has broken, there's an issue, and they need to use the ship's wheelchair. So don't rely on it. And when you call and book your cruise and you ask, am I able to rent a wheelchair from the cruise ship? And they go, oh sure, no problem. Oh, don't. I don't want to say don't believe them, but don't. That's going to be an issue. Because I remember when we got on board and they said, oh no, we don't rent wheelchairs. We only provide them as transport from the port to the ship and back again. We don't rent. We only have a few on board in case there's an emergency. So there might be a difference between what they're telling you on the phone when you're calling to book your cruise, and then when you actually get on the ship, they're saying, we don't have one to, sorry, out of luck. So a few tips, just so you know. I'm here to help you, give you whatever information I can. I hope it's helpful, and I just want to say, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, we're on Facebook. So travel safe, cruise often. We'll see you on the high seas. Bye-bye.